I don't know if you saw this one this morning, but this is how it turned out. A bit of balancing of the eyes, and yeah, I quite like these rapid things. You know, there's this one and this one. You know, not to go too far. I've just seen a guy that's done this incredible drawing of Marlon Brando, and he said on it, you know, he couldn't stop. And and that was the one from the other night as well. I thought that was really rapid. That one. I don't know if you saw that. That was crazy rapid, that one. And he didn't know where to stop. And I never really had that problem of knowing when to stop because I'm not invested in the detail, you see. So it was irrelevant to me how detailed something is as to whether or not it's a success. You know what I mean? That's a mindset thing. You know, it's got to be this in order for it to be good. You know, it's got to be every detail described for it to be good. But not sure that well, it certainly doesn't fit with my remit, if you like. If you look at some of these, I mean, some do. I mean, some like that one. I've just flashed it. I'm going to do a walkthrough on one of the. I've got folders like this. This is an 80, but I've got folders with 160 in them. So, I mean, that's a kind of highly finished in a way, I suppose. And some are more finished than others. You can see that's a kind of finished thing, but they stop when I feel that I've caught the essence. It's as simple as that. I don't have to have lots of detail in order to capture the essence of something. It'll catch me like that one there. I mean, that's awesome. I can't remember when I did that. It's quite a while ago since I did that, but look at that. Look at the depth. I tell you what, this you can just about make it out on here, but look at the depth of tonality there. I mean, and the nuances of tone that are in there. That's awesome. That's what charcoal does. Forget about trying to colour it in to make it look perfectly smooth like a black and white photograph. It's that. That's what you're chasing. But that is a product of my, response. The same with that one as well. Very little in terms of the detail of it. But look how he's captured that face. That's what you need to be doing. It's not, chasing the detail, because that's just about how good you can wield the pencil. Although whatever it might be that you're using, it's all about skill, and which for some people is all it's about. But things like that which are beyond skill. Anyway, enough of me bragging. So this is, and it's probably following on from what we said this morning about there's one thing, basically your reason for doing it, and the other part of that, I think, is you have to let yourself be achieve what you can achieve, if you like. It all sounds a bit like the Tony Robbins kind of thing, you know what I mean? I hate that stuff, but it's true. Is you've got to let yourself be. You've got to let yourself express yourself. Express your creativity and just enjoy it, I suppose. And I love doing it. But I think you're only going to ever be as good as you let yourself be. If you're restricting yourself to be as good as someone else, then you're never going to be as good as you're not going to be as good as someone else for a start off. That's never the reason to be. To do this, but this letting yourself, of all the things that we do, and there are times when letting yourself be is not the right way to approach it, but of all the things that we do, this is probably one of the things that being creative is one of the things that you really have to let yourself be creative. People say, oh, you're really talented and all that. It's not that at all. It's because the people that they deem to be talented have simply allowed themselves to achieve whatever it is that's locked inside them, and allowed themselves to actually manifest that thing. It appears that they're naturally talented, but in fact what they've done is say, I don't give a damn what you think, this is me, and I'm going to express my own voice. But as I said this morning, it's kind of it's difficult. All that stuff's difficult. You know, it's much easier to follow somebody else's pattern, somebody else's path. You know, I've got a friend who does the business coaching thing, and it's always about, you know, find somebody that's successful and milk them for ideas, ask them how they made it, you know, and all that kind of thing. And that's a lot of artists do that as well. You know, sort of do a general, a common path that people will take. Oh, I'm just going to do it like them. Oh, they've obviously done it right, and they've succeeded, and so I'm going to do it like them. But you think about all the greats that were, and great artists and great, you know, portrait artists or in landscape artists, all of them. Well, all of them are probably like Robert and Rice said about the, you know, we basically not going to be, we're going to be outcasts. I think he used the word outcast as well, because, you know, if we do it properly, you're not going to fit in with everybody else. If you do it like everybody else, then that's not doing it properly. You're just doing it like everybody else. And I suppose that's one of the things you're going to come to terms with. Having said that, my tip for that is just keep away from people. keep away from people, because they'll infect you with their madness, their definitions. I've said this many times, the definition thing, but they'll infect you with their way of doing it. You know, what's been successful for them or not, in the case may be. I mean, the worst kind of people you want to hang around with are people that haven't achieved anything and yet deem others to be, you know, the goal, the grail kind of thing. You know, those are the people that have, for whatever reason, you know, taken somebody else's opinions and take them on board and basically define their own aesthetic judgment on somebody else's aesthetic judgment. I mean, that's the, you know, it's the lack of independent thought thing, you know, so which is quite common, I'm afraid, these days. But I think that the facility or the ability or the whatever you know call it to let yourself do this to however, you know, and accept however it works out. That's just one of those things that I think you probably have to train to do that. You probably have to, you know, you went to art college. I don't think the teacher to do that. They might know in the fact that, you know, students of art college students tend to be a little bit reactionary, revolutionary, or whatever you want to call it. They're against the man, sort of thing, against the. When was the last time you heard somebody say that? Stick it to the man. I've been watching too many 1970s films and series, you know. So, remember Starsky and Hutch, and Oggy Bear, and all that. I love all that. It takes me right back. That was because we've got Snoop Dogg. I think he is Oggy Bear, isn't he? I think it might have been his dad. But I don't know. I think it's so difficult to do this without falling foul of the mechanical, you know, the way of doing. It's so difficult to do it without that being the driver. I said this morning, it's like, why you do it, and if the why you do it is simply because you want to make mechanical replications of things, you want to get good at shading or drawing Marlon Brando on a bike and get every detail on his leather and on the handlebars and all the rest. If you want to do that, that's brilliant. As long as you know that's the route that you've designated, and all that will entail, because it will entail a lot of hard work. You can't just sort of start, unless you can just sort of start doing that, you know, just find a good photograph, trace it, and colour it in. It's not, you know, and then expect to spend a couple of 3 weeks doing it. It's not a particularly a strenuous activity to do that, and I think most people would, with a little, practice, would be able to do that. And be happy with it. You know, that's the other thing as well. For some people, that's all that they want. I think that's probably one of the things that I'd say about the doing this, being an artist. I've got friends who do like pet portraits and whatever, and that's really all they want is to do pet portraits. And then some of us are like torn, you know. I mean, I probably in the past would have been considered a tormented artist, but the reason why I was tormented was because I didn't figure it out. You know, I was too busy trying to do it like other people. That's why I was tormented. I wasn't being myself, which is back to this, you know, let yourself be kind of thing. But I wasn't like that. I was too busy, as I say, torturing myself over not being good enough and not doing it like everybody else and not having the equipment and, you know, all the usual sort of stuff. As you can tell, I'm using the shopbox stuff, by the way. So as opposed to the piece that I was using this morning, I wanted to just to switch it up really, because I think sometimes I bang on about the homemade stuff as if it's accessible to everybody, you know. But at the end of the day, this is the problem with, and I'm alleviating this, if you like, by not holding the thing, I'm not dragging the thing and pushing it and all the rest of it and putting it on its side and whatever. So I'm kind of getting away from the problem of the continuous line and continuous tone aspect of working with the shopbox stuff. You know, it's funny that I see the you know, how to get things, you know, fix your proportions and all that sort of thing, and apart from, you know, the initial stages, you see me doing the you know, the scribbling to get identify the key anchor things. After that, everything becomes completely relational. Nothing is considered as a thing, you know, as a this is the nose, this is the eye, this is I'm drawing the eyes now. I'm just looking at the shapes, and I have all the shapes work together, and which is kind of on that, you know, on that one. I don't know if you saw me doing that one, but that was. I mean, the only problem with this one, you can see this. Can't you? I switched to the shop bought stuff from the homemade stuff, so you can see the changes in density now. But all of it is just the shapes that I was looking for, rather than the oh, this is the chin and this is the mouth, and that's going to happen there, and this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Try not to think of it like that. I said before about this problem that people seem to be, which is one of the things that happened with that video that was talking about this method of that I use, the finding the locations and then building the shapes around it. All that, they didn't put it like that. It was a much more well explained than I do it. But essentially that's what they were doing. But they did fall into the trap of calling the elements of the face by the name, which is always a problem for me. I think it's one of those things you've got to be careful of. You know, it's the known as opposed to, you know, your observation. If you can see it, you can draw it. Unlike the guy said, if you can touch it, you can draw it, which is a bit silly. But you know, these areas around that I'm drawing now are just shapes and tones that I'm just moving around. I am looking for alignments. I must admit, I'm always looking at alignments. You know, this corner of the chin, the corner of the nose, and then, you know, up to the corner of the eye. I'm always looking for stuff like that. And then obviously alignments and distances. So there's still a relationship between those two things, or those three things, if I'm looking at it as I normally would look at it. But I think those sort of considerations are not really that difficult to do, you know. Trying to get the eye right, I'm trying to draw the eye or whatever, is what people would normally say. And I'm just looking at, well, what is the distance between there and there? And if that's the right distance, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not really trying to say, oh, I've got to get the eye right. I have trouble with eyes. I'm not thinking like that. It's that drawing what you see, I think, and that, you know, people saying, well, nobody understands what that means. Yes, they do. Of course they do. Why wouldn't I understand that? I mean, I suppose, and that is something I've never been able to do, you know, draw from memory. I think that I don't know whether that's a skill or whether that's just, I don't know. It just some kind of practiced habit, you know, to draw from memory. I've drawn 1,000 eyes, or I've drawn 1,000 noses, or whatever. So being able to draw from memory is, I don't know. And I get the, you know, the Loomis thing, and the Loomis thing is from my take on it is for illustrators. I think he was an illustrator, and I think that's why he developed it. And had we not had people in the studio that would pose for us, we would have used it in the studio that I worked in. So, and that is not, you know, it's not really drawing from memory. It's drawing because you know the shape the head should be and all the rest of it. It's a little bit. I can't understand how you can apply that to then, you know, to a real person or to a real subject, because you're going to try and you're going to draw the construction, and then you're going to try and apply the, you know, what you see to the construction. Not sure if that's the best way to do it. You might as well just draw what you see. You're still going to have to make it fit the construction, aren't you? So, but yeah, anyway, going back to the theme of letting yourself be. I don't think I could do it without having gone through what I went through. And also the fact that I don't have to sell what I do, so I don't have to meet someone else's perception or expectations. So, which is, it's a luxury, really, that, isn't it? Most people expect to pay, or expect to sell, rather, their work, and that means you've got this sort of Damocles over your head that somebody might not like it, and then if you don't please them, and I mean the surefire way to please people is to give them an exact replica of whatever it is that you're painting or drawing, because reality is the yardstick of a common man. So they're always going to want reality. They're always going to want to look like the subject. And that's a measure for a lot of people. That's a measure of success, anyway. Skill that you're able to, if you're able to capture a face, skillfully replicate a photograph. That's deemed to be, you are a great artist because you can do that. But yeah, it's. I think the other thing about this letting yourself be thing is the the enjoyment in the moment. I think that's probably emphasized by letting yourself be, because it's like you don't know what you're capable of doing. That's the thing. You don't know what's possible until you just let yourself be. You don't realize how creative you could be, whilst ever you've got a perception of how it should be, because you won't let yourself be. You won't let yourself become whatever. You'll just, even when you're doing it, if you've got some kind of expectation there, even when you're doing it, you're measuring your marks and whatever else. It's a bit like that guy saying, when is it finished? So it's never finished. If detail is the master, it's never finished, is it? Because you can never be too detailed. But what if that's not you? If you've taken the time to find out if it was you. This is why I always like I don't know if they do it anymore, but back in the day, they used to do a foundation course at art college. Didn't matter what you did. We did it. Even when I did graphics, but we still did a foundation course just to find out whether or not it was your thing, and whether or not a particular kind of graphics would be your thing. I don't think they did it after that. I remember I went to Sheffield to do a mentor thing, and this girl was she was a born illustrator, and she illustrated the designs. They were just incredible. And I said to her, "You're on the wrong course. You need to be." And I didn't get invited back after that, because obviously when people have run a course and they want to get bums on seats, that's all universities are these days. They just want to fill places so they get the funding. But when I was telling this girl, that she shouldn't be on this course, in fact, that's what I used to do with when I was at De Montfort. I used to tell them, "They're on the wrong course. They're not good enough, or you're just not getting it. It's not your thing." So, but finding your thing, it can only happen if you let yourself go, can't you? You can't find what it is that lights your flame until you've actually struck the matches. And if you're not prepared to strike a match, you're never going to find what it is that lights your fire. So, but that's the problem. And the problem, I think, starts with, this is what a portrait is. Do it like this. You must do it like this because these guys know what they're talking about. So, and that is never going to allow you to be, to find your potential, find it what it is that makes you special. And you'll get bogged down by the doing as well. That's the thing. Everybody gets bogged down by the doing. And I think most people will just pack it in because the doing becomes too hard. This is what I'm drawing, by the way. I didn't show you, but yeah, what I like about stuff like this is the graphic element to it. You know, it suits the extreme contrasty type of approach because of the contrasting elements, and it's just a bunch of hard shapes in a way that are related to each other. There's not a lot of mid-tones on it. I suppose on that one this morning there was an element of, you can see it's more. This is, by the way, the homemade charcoal. That's the shop bought stuff. You can tell a mile off, can't you? That one. But because this is a hard, as I said, a hard shaped image, and the the elements are very black. It probably suits the shop bought stuff because you're just going to make nice big flat greys or nice big flat tones. I am going to introduce some of the the wandering line thing because I think it just contributes to, for me, it may be a style. I've got to admit that may be a style of drawing. I think it comes from the exploration aspect of it, trying to find out where things should be. But I've got to a point where, and this is when somebody was talking about the I don't rub out much with these in the lines. I think the argument I had then was the reason, if you like, for leaving them on was the fact that they contribute to the tonal value. They gives the whatever it might be, the cheek or the neck or whatever. It just gives it the tone and contributes to the tone. It is better in the clutch, by the way. The charcoal, the homemade, the shop bought charcoal. It's better in the clutch. It does stop me from drawing too much with it. As I say, pushing and scraping and all that kind of thing, and not really, and dragging and not really, being precise with it. Yeah. I think the this, you're going to be, allow yourself to be good or allow yourself to achieve something. It doesn't work unless you're prepared to accept what it is you're doing. It was that thing about the other day I was putting on about, love doing what you do, and you'll love what you do. So you can't allow yourself to be something and then judge it as against somebody else's or a standard of some kind. You can't. It has to be part of the same thing. You've got to be prepared to love what you do. But that comes back to this, what I said this morning about the reason for doing it. If the reason for doing it is to make replicas of faces, then you're always going to be judging it based on the level of replication, whether it be detail or accuracy or whatever it might be, or both. You'll always be judging it against that. So being good is going to be in respect to, as opposed to just being good. I think the only way I get around that is just to accept it for what it is, and then obviously you kind of, I don't know. I think my thing, because of it being about the essence of things, and that's what you see in everything. It's always, does it feel right? Does it feel like that person? Does it? I call it the smile, the glance, or whatever it might be that determines the emotional element of it. Have I caught that? All those things, for me, are the determinant, and not necessarily the execution of it. Or definitely not the execution of it. I think the other thing as well is that by having that attitude, it liberates you. It's not about whether or not I can draw a straight line, or whether or not I can draw a very fine line like that, and draw every hair. It's not about that, is it? Not for me. It's not, anyway. And that, I think, is the liberation part of it. I'm liberated from the fact that I've got to draw this stupid fine line of every hair. But the other side to that is, if it's required, if it's necessary, then it happens. I do it. But it's not a prerequisite that it must be that really fine, and that's what defines greatness and all the rest. It's not. I don't get any of that. I think the mindset thing is so freeing. It is. It's just like, it's just having fun doing it. Although I hate the word fun, I just think it demeans what it is that we're doing. It's a bit more serious than fun, but nevertheless, it's a joyful thing. It's getting a bit too small on the end of it. I'm going to pull that out a bit. And I'm going to do the unthinkable now. I'm going to sharpen it. I was going to draw it in with this thing. And I'm going to do one at, what time is it? I can't, no time now. Tomorrow I'm going to draw with this little crayon thing. But I couldn't have got the densities that I've got with this if I'd used that crayon. It really does go back to, and that's why I did it. I was doing those kids' crayons things. The reason why I was doing it was to show that understanding the balance of tones is a really important thing if you're talking about shaping and things, to understand, because you can't achieve great contrast with one of those, but you're still going to be able to create the impression of. Maybe I should have done it with that just to show you what I mean. But but that's that's probably one of the first things that I learned, and I learned that because I hadn't got anything that was any good to use. You know, I was using dodgy charcoal at the time that wouldn't create a range of tones. You know, as I said, I think I said it this morning about the bandwidth of the medium was very narrow, so I had to work within, you know, the confines of the tonal range of whatever it was I was using. So the tonal aspect of it and balancing the tones in order to create the form was something that I learnt because of that. It was just a result of limitations of equipment, you know. Which is a good thing. I mean, when I was talking about the using a big fat ugly piece of charcoal, the limitations in terms of the details you can get with that are going to encourage a better attitude towards drawing, because you're not going to focus on the detail, because you can't. You know, you can't focus on that. So you start to look at the larger shapes and the larger and the tones, and that's really, you know, Robert and Rice said you should, you know, try and describe the thing with the greater masses, you know, and that's basically it. It's the kind of opposite of what you see, like the guy with this morning with the Marlon Brando thing. It's kind of the opposite of that. Everything is defined by the detail they put into the bike and the leather and the hat, and you know, and it's the opposite of that. If that could be described with big bold shapes, I'm not saying that what he did was wrong. I'm saying that was his way of his definition, if you like, of success. Although he, as I said, he didn't know if he finished it or not, whether it was detailed enough or not, you know. Which points to something, I think, that about his attitude towards doing it. I got all these new rubbers, but they're not any better than what I had before, really. I think it's probably because A, it's the charcoal that I'm using, and B, it's the paper. They just won't lift, you know. But I get this in between thing, you know, it's in between erasing and smudging, you know, blending, which is if I'm careful with it, it's good. If I'm not careful with it, it ends up blurry and dirty and just smudged, you know, and I don't want, and blended. Really don't want it to look blended, which is why a lot of the marks stay on, you know, and a lot of the I put charcoal on knowing that I'm going to rub it off like that, but sometimes I will leave the marks, you know, the strokes, because it doesn't look as smooth and as photocopy like. And it's enough. That's the thing as well. Is it enough? It's enough to make to give the impression of, and that's all right, as long as that's the criteria. It's enough to give the impression of. Suggest and imply. It's back to that again. I think it's just about done, to be honest. I think it's not. I might. Yeah, I like the sculptural thing. I mean, I was flicking through one of those. I did a walkthrough. As I say, I'm going to do one of the one with 160. I'll show you. Let me just show you this. And I don't know how long the video is going to last, but yeah, I'm going to do one of these 160s. What's this one? Right. That's one with 160 drawings in, right? There's no way I'm going to get, going to get through it within a reasonable time. It's just crazy. And there's four of these. There's four of these with 160 in them. And most of them are just the 40s. There's a couple of 20s as well, but most of them are the 40s. But yeah, I'm going to go through this and I might do it in two halves. That might be the best way to do it. Just do this one. This is, I'm trying to find these. I did a series of, and it's not like me to do, continuously the same person, but these two were part of the same person. But these are just proper charcoal paintings, So these won't be given away, by the way, and there's a third one in that series. That was her from the front. So, yeah, these I think have to be individual. I'll probably frame these up. But these are actually, this is hawthorn charcoal. That as opposed to this shopboard, as I said. And the difference is, look at the warmth in the grey. There's still the contrast there. There's still a depth there. But look at the warmth in those. It's fantastic. Now, that's homemade charcoal. Now, I used to make that in the tins, the same as I do now. These sort of things. I used to make it in a tin, but I used to put it on a little barbecue. These days, I do it in a cooker, in an oven, a lab oven. And to be honest, I think I preferred it, even though for every 4 tins of homemade charcoal, I would probably get 1 tin out of it. I think I prefer the homemade on the fire, on the barbecue. But there is some. This one. If I was to take this anywhere, if I took this to somebody, this would be, I suppose, everything that what I do is about. It's just on it's on another level I've got some amazing. I've got 1,200 drawings to put in folders now, and there's some amazing ones. But these from maybe, I don't know, that one there, for instance. These are from I don't know, 2 years ago probably. But they probably, this whole thing could just be my one show. This, all the drawings in this, 160 drawings in this, could be my one show, and that's I wouldn't need to show anything else, because you can see everything that I'm about in these drawings, and my exploration into what charcoal is about. It's all there. Many of these were lessons, and if I was looking through all the lessons that I did with Kevin, if you're watching Kevin, they're all unlisted. They're not, you can't see them, but there's probably, as I said, we were doing it 3 times a week. So most of those drawings in there will be videoed as lessons. But I thought about releasing them, just as for everybody to see them. But they were specific to us. We were talking about stuff that wasn't for public consumption. It was like, it's all right to show people, but I couldn't allow the audio to be heard, because we were talking. I'm like, when I'm on these, I'd ramble even more on those lessons and talk about sensitive issues, and I don't want to upset anybody, basically. So that's why I wouldn't release them. But it's a shame, because it'd be nice to show people the story, if you like, the how it arrived at that place. Yeah, so I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to tinker with bits and bobs on it and move things around. But like I say, being prepared to say, right, that's for me, that's where I want to be, and I'm happy with that. You know, the outcome. That's the way. I think it's the only way you're going to be able to achieve your own, you know, your own potential. Is to say you've got to be happy with what you do. But if the happiness is based on comparison, you're never going to be happy. If it's based on achieving something, you know, the detail of that jacket or whatever, or the buttons in the right place, you're never going to be happy. You're always going to be chasing the detail, and that's the problem with most people. They're too locked into that as a measure. It's got to be this and it's got to be that, or it's got to be as good as so and so, or done in a certain way. You know, that's the thing. It's letting yourself be all you can be is probably a naff way of describing it, but it is. You've got to do that. Right. So I'm off. I'm just going to tinker with this, and then I'm going to put them up on social media. You might see it on social media. But I'm definitely going to do the 161. I haven't got time to do it now, and the light's gone as well, so I don't know whether it'd be a good idea to do it now. Right. I love you and leave you, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Got a lesson tomorrow, so if you're going to be in that 10:30 lesson, then I'll see you then.